You'd think learning is just natural, right? It's something humans do. But what if I told you that the kind of learning we do in school, the most important kind, is actually completely unnatural for our brains? That's the wild idea we're going to dig into today, and it all comes from some really cool insights into the true art of teaching.
Just think about this for a second. How does a little kid learn to talk? It kind of just happens, right? They soak it up just by being around other people. But then you try to teach them how to read that exact same language, and suddenly it's this huge, years-long struggle. What's going on there? Why is one so easy and the other so incredibly hard? Okay, so this really lays it all out. Look at the left side. Speaking, playing, socializing. That's the stuff we're built for. It's in our DNA, baked in over millions of years of evolution. But then you look at the right side, reading, writing, doing complex math. That stuff, it's brand new for the human brain, evolutionarily speaking. It demands this abstract thinking that our brains just weren't originally designed to handle.
And that's the real kicker, right there. The modern classroom is basically asking our brains to do a job they were never hired for. Our ancestors' brains were wired for survival, spotting a predator, finding food, reacting fast, short bursts of intense focus. They weren't built to sit still for 6 hours staring at squiggly lines on a page. So there's this built-in conflict, this tension between our natural wiring and what school asks of us.
So the big question is, how do we bridge that gap? Well, that's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at this idea of the unnatural learner. Then we'll talk about why the teacher is still so important, irreplaceable, really. After that, we'll get into the art of teaching, some cool strategies for what's called selling knowledge, and we'll wrap it all up with the 3 lenses of education.
All right, first things first. Let's really nail down this idea of the unnatural learner and why skills like reading and writing don't just come naturally to us. Okay, so if this kind of learning is so hard and unnatural, it leads to a really big, very modern question. I mean, with all the information in the world available for free online, why do we even need teachers anymore? No, seriously, think about it. You've got AI that can teach you anything. You have YouTube videos explaining quantum physics. You can take courses from Harvard for free. So is the teaching profession, doomed? It's funny, the author we're drawing from actually put this to the test. He stood in front of his university class and said something like, listen, everything you need for this course, all the materials, the readings, it's all online. A lot of it for free. And then he hit them with the big question. How many of you, honestly, would go and learn all of this on your own? And you could just imagine the silence in that room. The answer? 0. Not one single hand went up. And that right there, that single moment, tells you everything you need to know about what a teacher really does today. See, it's not about just handing out information anymore. Google can do that. The real crucial job of a teacher, the part that AI can't replace, is to build 2 things in a student: motivation, which is the desire to learn, and trainability, which is the ability to learn how to learn. You can have all the information in the universe, but without those 2 things, it's just noise. Okay, so if a teacher's main gig is to motivate, how on earth do they do that? Well, this is where we shift gears a bit, from the science of teaching to the art of teaching. You can think of teaching in 2 parts, right? There's the science of it, the lesson plans, the psychology, the data. That's like the blueprint for a house. But then there's the art of it. That's the human connection, the creativity, the inspiration. That's what turns the blueprint into a home. The science gives you the tools, but the art is what actually connects with the student. Now, the source material uses a kind of provocative term for this: artful coercion. And look, I know that sounds bad, but it's not what you think. It's not about forcing anyone. It's about a teacher using their skill and influence to gently nudge, guide, and maybe even push a student to do the hard work they might not want to do on their own to help them reach their own goals. So that brings us to the toolbox. How do teachers actually do this? The way it's framed is pretty interesting. It's like they have to sell knowledge, especially to students who aren't exactly eager customers. And here are 10 ways they can do that. Again, it's not about being a pushy salesperson. It's about making learning compelling. For instance, create an engaging pitch. That's just making the topic matter to the students' lives. Or use persuasive storytelling, because we all know a good story can make even the most boring subject come alive. It's all about building trust, showing them what success looks like, and being there to help. It's about turning a chore into an actual opportunity. So, what's the point of all this effort? What's the end game? It's got to be more than just passing a test, right?
This is where we get to the three lenses of education.
Think of it like leveling up. First, you have informative, teaching. That's the basics, the facts, the figures, the skills. You need that foundation. But then, a great teacher takes you to the next level, transformational. This is where learning actually changes how you think, how you see the world. And the ultimate level, reformative. That's when students are so inspired that they take what they've learned and go out to actually make the world a better place.
So you see, the big takeaway here is that teaching is so much more than just information transfer. Anybody can look up facts. A search engine can do that. The real goal, the art of it, is to take that student, that unnatural learner, and help guide them on a journey to becoming a truly transformed individual.
And that leaves me with one last thought for you. Just take a second and think back. It doesn't have to be from school. It could be from a mentor, a book, a random conversation. What was the last lesson you learned that didn't just give you new information, but actually changed you? That is the power we're talking about. That's what a great teacher does.